moment. So we are starting now. Hopefully most of the people got in, and people who could not get in, they will receive a recording link. People who register. So welcome to our online presentation. It's nice to be home, sitting in our pajamas and listen to somebody's talk. So it's always nice. And today's topic, epigenetic expression from your biology to your energy. And today I have a guest with me, Laura Chalfant, who will join me later. And also, if you have some questions during my presentation, you can put them in the chat and Laura will monitor the questions and I will be answering them at the end of my presentation. All right. So who am I and why I talk about topic of epigenetics? I'm trained as a medical doctor and practice as a certified holistic health practitioner and licensed esthetician. I'm a best-selling author of Listen to Your Body and Regain Your Health and a public speaker. I specialize in epigenetics, natural hormone balancing, detoxification, stress management, and anti-aging. I offer health coaching through private and group sessions, webinars, workshops, retreats, and classes. I graduated medical school in Europe 1993, specializing in gynecology and endocrinology since 1994. And when I moved to the United States in 1997, I wanted to become a doctor. So I work in the American medical system and studied for my medical board. And that time I became very depressed. I start having a lot of health problems like exercise-induced asthma, gastritis, migraines, chronic migraines, and infertility. I couldn't live without coffee. I had to drink multiple cups just to stay awake. I was falling asleep on a traffic light by going home after too much work and stressful day. And one time I just collapsed in my bathroom one Saturday morning while I was ready for my weekend job. And I called in sick and slept for 24 hours. And next day I was back to my normal crazy routine, but I was really concerned about my health. So I started dig deeper and looking for answer to my chronic conditions, even though I didn't have any diagnosis at that time. So I went to a journey to my own health and I overcome a lot of problems. I got pregnant and that led me to Institute for Integrative Nutrition that I graduated 2013 and become certified holistic health practitioner by American Academy of Drugless Practitioners. And in 2015, I become mind body therapy certified practitioner, functional medicine certified practitioner 2018, also certified by True Stellar Detox in 2018, and epigenetic specialist now since January 2019. So I do have a lot of education and background, and now I work mainly with women and specialize in women's health. And when I overcome my own problem and become much healthier, I created my own program that I also work with my clients. And I believe to address a health problem or any diseases, you need to work on these 7 levels of healing: as a chemical, physical, energetic, mental, emotional, spiritual, and biological. And usually our medical system address only a few levels like physical and chemical, but not many other, or sometimes mental. So when I work with my client and how I heal myself, just using all this system of 7 levels of healing. And that's what I offer to my clients. Okay. So today's agenda, we will address the questions why some people get sick and some don't from the same exposure, like exposure to viruses or even to different toxins. We overview gene and gene expression. We look at different detox genes and how we can change their expression. And Laura will address, and you will learn how acquired and ancestral and epigenetics markers can prevent liver from processing toxins. Also, she's gonna go over body talk as she's a specialist in that. So why do some people get sick but others don't from the same exposure? We ask ourselves why we have so many chronic conditions, why our kids have more and more chronic diseases, degenerative diseases, even in their early age, and sometimes they're born already sick. And why younger and younger women get some cancer that we usually get in older age. So I approach disease as this three-legged stool. On the top of the stool, and that play a huge role in our health, in disease creation, it's our diet. And in America, I call it standard American diet or SAD diet. One leg of the stool, it's a microbiome, and that's our gut health. And if we don't keep our gut healthy, we can create different diseases, particularly if our diet is not the best. So we feed our microbes in our gut, and they help us to go through our life and offer us nutrients that we need for our function. Second leg of the stool is stressors, and I will mention a few of them. In my previous lecture, I was talking about transgenerational toxins and how we get those toxins even from our mothers and from generation to generations. And I divide stressors in three different categories. It's as we usually think about stress, it's emotional stress that comes from relationship, work, a relationship to yourself. Also, another group of stressors is physical stress. It can be injury or can be posture, physical structure of the body, even different illnesses, over-exercise or under-exercise. It's all physical stressors. And chemical stress that I'm very passionate about to teach people. It's everything that around us in our environment, and also inside what we put inside of our body, like diet. It's all chemical stressors. And today we will talk about how we eliminate those stressors. So a third leg of the stool that we will spend a lot of time, it's epigenetic expression and how it's affect our health. Before we go to epigenetic expression, I would like to just mention a few stressors. As I said, we have different multiple group of stressors, and we start accumulating them even early in our life. And I look at the body as a bucket. So throughout our life, we accumulate so many stressors and we fill our bucket with them. And on the top of those stressors, we can add some trauma, like physical trauma or emotional trauma, that all also contribute to our bucket. And on the top, if we get some infection or exposure to viruses or bacteria, our body become overwhelmed and can start spilling toxins or symptoms of inflammation. So all these are symptoms of inflammation or signs of inflammation that sometimes we go to doctors and complain about, but they might not show up on the labs or diagnostic studies. We would not have any diseases at this stage yet. But if we live for another 5, 10, 20 years and not taking care of it, it will be labeled as disease by then. And doctor will offer you medication, surgery, or some other interventions. So because our bucket overflow, we create those inflammations. And this is one of the reason why some people get sick from the same exposure early in life and some later. And what about epigenetic expression? We all born with genes from our mother and father, but it's not our destiny. We are, as a human being, live in an environment, and we create an environment for those genes to be expressed. So before we go to genetic expression, I just want to remind you about maybe high school biology about genes and DNAs. So start with DNA. DNA is a carrier of genetic information passed from parents to offspring. It's double-stranded helix joined together by complementary base pairs. So A adenine always joined to this thymine, guanine always joined with cytosine, and as you can see, they're all in this helix. So another name for them, nucleotides. So nucleotides A, T, C, and G are building block of entire human genome. DNA instruct all cell processes of the body for the whole life. So we're already born with instructions for all our life. And each cell in the body has that instruction. So its body is so amazing. So what's a gene? A gene is a basic physical and function unit of heredity. 4 nucleotides, as I mentioned, G, C, A, and T, in various sequences function as a gene. And you can see here, so the few bases bunched together as a gene. All genes together make up a human genome. The whole man genome consists of 3 billion base pairs in various sequences. So all these base pairs is like 3 million base pairs. It's amazing. And they all make 22,000 genes. So this bunch together as a gene, and we have about 22,000 of genes. And genes contain all information for the cell, for the entire organism. So to pack all these 3 billion base pairs in the small nucleus, in small cells, they're all put together in a chromosome. They're all tied in one chromosome, in nucleus, in the cell. So each cell of our body has that information. And compared to our 3 billion base pair, I found this beautiful flower that has even more than that, has 150 billion base pair. And this is beautiful flower with so many genetic information. It probably has much more function that we have. That's I assume. So all human genome is packed in 46 chromosomes. It's a pair of each chromosome. We have 22 pair of autosome and 1 pair of sex chromosome, that XX for female and XY for male. So all autosome responsible for all our function in the body, and they come in pairs. So as you can see, number 1 chromosome is the largest chromosome, and it has most information, contain most information. And the pair 22 is the smallest chromosome. It has the least information. So I found something interesting just to show you how much it's packed in 1 chromosome. So this one is chromosome number 1, is the largest. It has 246 million base pairs. This is second to large one, 3 billion less. And this is the 22 chromosome, the smallest chromosome. It has 49 million base pair. So what is this all written? It's all genes that pack in the chromosome and all their function, what they're responsible for. So every time we need to make something, a protein, we go to these genes, signal these genes, and they start working. So every gene is a set of instructions to create a specific protein. Each protein has its own specific function. So every time we need to create a protein that make everything in our body, we have to impact from DNA to RNA to amino acid and protein. For example, we take a gene, MTHFR gene, which based on chromosome 1, the largest chromosome, and code for MTHFR protein. So it starts from MTHFR gene, RNA, and MTHFR protein or enzyme. And this is more about gene expression, so how it's happened. Every time any function in the body needed, so signal sent to the chromosome where that gene located, take for example again MTHFR, and signal start in the gene, so DNA start impact, unwind, and start divided. One strand of DNA replicated with RNA. So information coded into that gene is transcribed to the messenger RNA. Messenger RNA has the same matching nucleotide, and that messenger RNA get out from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, and the coded information now in the messenger RNA is translated into proteins. So every time we need to do something, and it's happening every millisecond in the body. It's so amazing. I can't believe that we don't even see what's happening, but that's how gene expression works. So the DNA of all humans is 99.9% identical. The majority of 0.1% variations has no functional significance. But basically, it's our phenotype, like different hairs or different eye color or different skin colors. But small genetic variation can influence the ability of genes to perform their required function. So function of protein can be changed, or structure of the protein can be changed due to small variation that we will be talking about. So what kind of variation happens in the genes? First, it's a genetic mutation, a change in the genomic sequence that causes a visible change in the characteristics of organism. It's carry high probability that the effect will be expressed and visible. Can be a single base pair, entire gene, large segment of the chromosome, or entire chromosome. And we know some genetic mutations like a Down syndrome or sickle cell anemia. Another variation, and we will not talk about genetic mutation, and when I do testing, we don't test for those kind of mutation, genetic mutation. What we work on is genetic variance or genetic variation. It's a minor impact, does not cause disease on its own, but convey susceptibility to diseases. So you can be predisposed to disease if you have variants. Usually it's a single nucleotide polymorphism or a nucleotide variation or a small sequence of nucleotides. So all those letters can be just different, and that cause variation. So it's influenced by environmental factors like diet and lifestyle. So the variation, another name for gene variation called SNPs or single nucleotide polymorphism. A gene variant that is caused by a single nucleotide or base pair. So you can see here, instead of AT, there is a change to CG base pairs. So this is just a single variation in base pairs. It's called gene variants or single nucleotide polymorphism. So these tiny variations in our genome make a significant difference by affecting the ability of our gene to perform critical function. This is an example I want to give you to understand better how gene variation works. For example, if I have gene variant of this gene CYP1A2, which code for cytochrome P450 in the liver, and that gene responsible for that enzyme that help to eliminate caffeine from the body. So it's actually basically make caffeine metabolize in the body. So if there is a variant in that gene, I might have that enzyme work slower than normal. So I cannot excrete coffee from the body fast enough. So gene by itself cannot create cardiovascular disease, but can predispose it, because if I drink coffee and I cannot eliminate coffee from the body fast enough, caffeine stays in the body a long time and can increase blood pressure and also pressure on vascular system. And if I consume coffee every day and I don't eliminate well enough, so it can predispose me or actually cause cardiovascular disease. So it's mean that gene, if another person, for example, doesn't drink coffee at all, it's not gonna affect them and they're not gonna create cardiovascular disease later on. So it's only genetic variants or genes in the environment that we create cause it, and that's called epigenetics. So effect of SNPs or gene variant is modifiable by environmental factors such as diet, nutrients, exercise, and lifestyle. And that's what I give you an example. Another form of epigenetics that work with nutrients, they call nutrigenomics and nutrigenetics. And nutrigenomics, it's negative or positive effect of specific nutrient intake on certain genes. For example, again, MTHFR gene, if I don't meet an MTHFR gene code for MTHFR enzyme that help to metabolize folic acid of folate, a natural folate in the fruits and vegetables. So if I have some gene variant in that gene, I don't metabolize folate very well. That means that I cannot take synthetic folic acid. I have to take methylated or active form. Same with vitamin D if we have some gene variants in that. Nutrigenetics, it's opposite. So your genes affect how your body responds to food. For example, if I have a gene that code for the lactose enzyme and I drink a lot of milk, but because I have a variant, I cannot eliminate that lactose well enough or transfer metabolize that dairy. So if I drink dairy, because I have a lot of metabolites that stay in the body, I can create inflammation and the disease later on. Same with caffeine, I just give example, alcohol, gluten, and some other nutrients. So all this very important how we can modify our lifestyle or can modify our diet. And this is all come in epigenetic testing, and you can test your gene. I wanna mention how we detoxify, which is very important for our health. And as I said, we exposed to many toxins in our body. And how we eliminate them, very important. So there, I wanna explore detoxification that happening in the liver. There is two phases of the detoxification that happening in the liver. So everything that we get from outside, from environment, toxins, or something that created inside of our body needs to go through the liver, and liver like a policeman that check everything that goes in our body, including medications. So if there is a fat-soluble toxins, it goes through phase 1 for elimination, and phase 1 based on enzyme cytochrome P450, as I mentioned before. And it's coded by gene CYP1A1. And what's happening in the first phase with that enzyme, it's oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis. It makes that toxin can start metabolize in the first phase, and become toxin become metabolite, and that metabolite, it's called intermediate metabolite. It can be even more toxic than before it was processed in the phase 1. So this is a short phase, it's called intermediate phase, that metabolite is supposed to stay and push down to phase 2 metabolism or detoxification. In phase 2 detoxification, there are a few enzymes that work to make that dangerous metabolite water soluble. It's a glutathione transferase enzyme, and there's a few genes that are responsible for that enzyme. And also COM genes and MTHFR genes. So what's happening in the phase 2 to make them water soluble, the sulfuration, glucuronidation, glutathione conjugation, and other processes. So to make them water soluble and push out from the body through gallbladder, feces, and out, or through blood, kidney, and out. So all this very important that happening in our liver, and if we have some genetic variants in these genes that code for those phase 1, phase 2 enzymes, we might have problem. And let's see what we can have. The same chart, just put it in a different way. I just want to give you an example. So if we have enzyme, slow enzyme due to gene variants in those genes, what happened, or fast, sometimes due to gene variation, we have a fast enzyme function. So if there is a fast enzyme function, it means that we have too many active metabolites that happening in the intermediate phase. Or if it's slow, it means that we cannot eliminate toxins that come to the liver fast enough. If we have gene variant in phase 2 detoxification, for example, glutathione transferase, if this phase is too slow, it means that those dangerous metabolites still have effect on some tissues. They can damage because they're more dangerous than previous other toxins. So those enzymes can go to the blood and can go outside of liver and damage particular endocrine organs like breast tissue, uterine, prostate, lungs, and any other, and create oxidative stress, inflammation, and create different diseases, including cancers. And I'm going to give you an example how our report look like, and this is my report. So again, regarding of detoxification, if you look on my report, I have gene variants in CYP, cytochrome P450 enzyme. So it means that my enzymatic function of phase 1 is slowed. Even though we have so many genes that coded for the same enzymes, I have only one gene variant, I still have to be concerned about it and do something about it. So phase 2 detoxification enzyme and genes that coded for them, glutathione transferase, M1 and T1. So I actually don't have gene, it's absent. It means it's deleted. So out of 2, I have only 1 working. That means that my phase 2 detoxification slowed by 50%. So I have to also pay attention to this. And 2 other genes that I want to mention, it's a COMB and MTHFR, and I'm homozygous for those genes. It means that the function of those enzymes that's responsible for phase 2 detoxification also slow down. What can I do to improve my function? Also, what environment I need to create to change my gene expression? For example, cytochrome P450, to improve function, I have to reduce exposure to environmental toxins, and they're listed here. On also estrogens that come from outside, like hormonal birth control and hormonal replacement therapy, or smoking, even second-hand smoking. Also, I need to improve my diet and eating more cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, and watercress. Allium family vegetables like onion, garlic, chives, leeks, and antioxidant like berries, and different type of berries includes tomatoes. Let's talk about another gene that I have problem with, and I have deletion of one of them. It's glutathione transferase. So I need to include phytoestrogens to influence estrogen synthesis. Actually, all estrogenic hormones go through the liver in the same way as I just explained. So to eat phytoestrogen, that means estrogen that comes from the plant, it's beneficial for our own body instead of getting, so they will take receptor on the body instead of chemical that looks like estrogen or synthetic estrogen that we sometimes get through oral contraceptive and replacement therapy. So I need to eat food rich in those phytoestrogen, and that food comes from soy products, legumes, alfalfa, clover, licorice root, gutsu root, and some lignans like a fiber, flax seeds, whole grains, beans, and seeds. I need to add some spices to my diet like turmeric, cumin, ginger, black pepper, rosemary, caraway, and dill seeds. And ensure adequate intake of some supplements like magnesium and vitamin E, and some other supplements that listed here. Calm genes, so I need to, a key diet and lifestyle interventions would be include increasing also fibers, as I mentioned before, similar type, and also managing quality of dietary fat like olive oil, almonds, Brazil nuts, avocado, and increase phytoestrogens the same way. Lose weight or maintain normal weight, and increase exercise. And MTHFR gene, I need to eat food that rich of folate, vitamin B6, 12, like a raw green leafy vegetables, spinach, kale, and also food that promote methylation, like raw beets and broccoli, asparagus, avocados, fish, chicken, beef, pork. Also, I need to add some B complex or multivitamins with 800 microgram folate, and it's supposed to be methylated folate. I need to avoid high amount of synthetic folic acid or inactive form, and usually comes in a supplements or fortified rich food, a lot of food like a cereal or flour fortified with folic acid. And people with MTHFR gene variants should be aware of that, not to get too much. So this is my gene that's responsible for detoxification, and how would I address them and to make my function better. And you would ask yourself, do I have a genetic variant? Well, you never know until you test. And today I would like to offer you testing. Everybody can test their genes, and it's not only detox genes, but thousands of genes that we test. And instead of $500 regular price, I would like to offer $350 until Sunday if you take advantage of it. This test is very easy. Test kit come to your home. You can just swap your chicks and send back to the lab. What I like about this lab, it doesn't attach your name to the specimen, so a lot of people are concerned about stealing information by doing genetic testing. So in this lab, they use just a number. Test kit comes with the number. You send that test kit to the lab, and result comes to me as a number that attached to your name that only I know. And after test results come back, I go overview and consult for 1 hour. So it's all included in that price. And if you take advantages of testing, I also send you a bonus. It's a neurotoxicity questionnaire. It's a series of questions that relate to heavy metals toxicity, biotoxicity, or general toxicity. So you can get tested for that. And my life purpose and why I do that and why I do my own healing, it's to change our world to a place full of love, health, and happiness, particularly for our future generation. And my family is my purpose, and my work is my purpose. And because today is Earth Day, I would like to wish everybody happy Earth Day. And this is all my presentation. And if you have questions, please, Laura, if you can check those questions.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. This is from Diane, and she asks, can you have both nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics?
Okay. What's the question again?
Can you have both nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics?
It's just a name. So in our epigenetic testing, we address everything. So how we find the genes in both areas, nutrigenomics and nutrigenetics. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, and anybody, you know, if anybody else wants to chat in some questions, please feel free to do that. So I wanted to ask you, this is for me,
Mhm.
the DNA test, is that all genetic variant, or is it also an epigenetic profile? So just a genetic profile, or do you also?
So all gene variants, we tested thousands of genes. Whatever is available, testing for, they test for all those genes. So epigenetics, something that we can change with our lifestyle and diet.
And do you do epigenetic testing also?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And then you answered my other question. So you can send out the test kits to
Mhm.
anybody anywhere.
Yes, and they come from the labs. So when we order testing, labs send you the kit and you send kit back to the lab after collection. It's very easy. So everybody can do on their own.
So are there any more questions for Larissa? Larissa, that was an amazing presentation. I learned so much, and it was.
Sorry, I did a lot of science, so we need to review because people sometimes don't understand how the epigenetic works, so I have to do the hard stuff.
Well, I think that also it was very, very clear. It was one of the clearest presentations on and concise on genetics that I've heard. So,
All right, thank you.
I appreciated it.
So now I want to give my power to Laura, and I would like to introduce her until I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Laura can take over. And while she's doing that, I'll introduce her. And Laura Chalfant is a certified body talk practitioner and intuitive healer, and has had a thriving hands-on healing practice for over 30 years. She had a master's degree in cultural anthropology from Bryn Mawr College, where she did research in bereavement, shamanism, and transformational workshops. Laura had been a practitioner of yoga, meditation, and qigong for over 40 years. She had been on a path for transformation from a young age when life circumstances led her to seek out innovative alternative methods of healing mind, body, spirit, and authentic practices that bring forth awakening. She lived, she lived in Kripalu Yoga Ashram for 5 years in her late 20s and became fascinated by traditional healing systems of ancient culture. She's a certified roller, licensed massage therapist, certified Franklin method instructor, had trained in, studied, and taught yoga for over 30 years, is a certified Reiki master, and has studied Continuum and Pilates intensively. So thank you, Laura, for joining me today, and welcome. Take away.
Thank you, Larissa. I'm going to pin my video. So I also wanted to say that my passion now is body talk. I've been studying body talk for the last 5 years, and body talk integrates just about everything that you have studied into one brilliant system. So our talk today, epigenetic expression from your biology to your energy. I'm going to take the energy piece of this. I want to explain body talk because it's not that easily explained, and it's something that I think I finally have been able to articulate. So I want to articulate it in a way that that you can also understand it. Body talk is an evolutionary healthcare system that works with the body's own innate wisdom to heal itself. It is a truly integrative mind-body energy system designed to get at the root of a root and heal the disease process. So we really tap into what's going on with the body at this moment, and how can we clear the traumas in the system so that the body can function optimally. Body talk is integrative medicine, integrative energy medicine. It integrates the latest scientific research in anatomy and physiology with epigenetics and traditional healing systems such as Chinese medicine and the philosophy of Ayurveda. It integrates research in the above systems with a training in intuitive acuity. Thus, it accesses both a comprehensive left brain training with the wisdom and of the intuitive right brain. Body Talk is intuitive medicine. Body Talk is a highly structured, intuitive, and priority-based healing system. It uses a subtle form of neuromuscular biofeedback and an integrated map of the body-mind to find the root cause of disease. There are scientific protocols used to increase communication, specific protocols used to increase communication between the body, mind, and energy. These protocols hydrate cells, balance body chemistry, link organs, endocrines, body parts, meridians, and chakras together for better communication. Body Talk works with an integrative mind-body energy map. And this is the map that we use here. This map allows the practitioner to create a formula designed specifically for you and your healing needs in the moment, right now. What is a priority for your body, mind, energy right now, today? And that's really important because, I'm sure Larissa knows this, is when you're unpacking epigenetic issues and traumas and toxins in the body, it's a layered system. And we can only do so much at a time when we're healing the body. And so Body Talk accesses the right brain to ask the body, how do we, where do we go here? What's the first thing that we need to do? Even though you may have a specific issue that's pressing, it might not be that issue that we need to address, because there may be something else that needs to be unpacked before we can get to the root of the issue that you're dealing with today. This map represents a holistic view of the body and integrates the physical, energetic, and emotional bodies, as well as consciousness, belief systems, and thought patterns. And the last piece of this is really important because belief systems and thought patterns are connected to traumas. And so when and the traumas are connected to imbalances in our physiology. So when we can get to the belief systems and the emotional issues that are linked to the traumas, and then maybe address an epigenetic marker that is connected, we have a much better potential to unpack and unwind the whole pattern in your system. Body Talk is priority-based medicine. Body Talk's highly structured priority-based system is designed to find areas in your body causing stress and disease, and thus getting at the root of the disease process. The sessions are individualized to address the priority of your body today. This allows the sessions to unfold in a way that is most supportive to your health and well-being. We work with the innate wisdom of the body. In Body Talk, we tap into the innate intelligence of your body and design a protocol specifically for you at this time in your life. The innate wisdom is directed by higher consciousness. Our neuromuscular feedback system, along with the comprehensive map of the body, allows us to step out of programmed responses and listen to the wisdom of the body's innate intelligence. So I think I have more about that in the next slide. So it's important to realize that we are not the healers. We're just tapping in, we're stepping into a healing energy. We're tapping into your own healing mechanism. The body knows how to heal itself. And what happens is the body forgets, because the systems stop linking together, like the organs stop talking to each other, the meridians stop communicating with the organs, or the brain isn't talking to the adrenals very well, because stress impacts all of those systems. We we are bringing this awareness of your body's capacity to heal itself into the session. And this awareness can open up pathways that have been blocked for many years. So as I, as a practitioner, hold a space of seeing you whole and seeing you connected to something bigger and your energetic blueprint, your body starts to resonate with that. So your body starts to be able to step out of the belief systems that are locked into it and see another way that hasn't been available to you for a while because your body is in lockdown. So these blocked pathways are established by belief systems that may have crystallized in your body-mind from traumas, from toxins, from many, many things. Clearing the physical stagnation along with the belief systems allows the body to rebalance and heal. So we're always bringing the physiological aspect with the emotional aspect and the mind crystals and the locking down, the belief systems that are locking down the body and mind. Body Talk is a linking system. Body Talk works to optimize energetic circuits and communication pathways. For instance, maybe we're going to link the heart to the brain. So the heart has a certain level of truth that the brain might not get at, because the heart has an intuitive understanding of what the body needs. But the brain and the heart are not connecting to each other. So if we link the heart brain to the head brain, then the communication pathways are back online, and they start to communicate better and synchronize with each other. And there's a communication in the body that's starting to function again. Or, for instance, it could be the heart meridian to the liver meridian. They're not communicating well, and so we're linking these energy pathways back together so that the energy can flow in your system. So the stagnation is cleared, and the meridians can start to support the organs and support the endocrine systems and the energy in your body. Or maybe it's the liver talking to the spleen. So the liver is kind of upset with the spleen because the spleen isn't doing its job and the liver is having to overwork. And so the liver needs to call a meeting with the spleen to say, hey, spleen, you really need to start digesting food better. You need to increase your blood capacity, increase your capacity to make blood so that I can have enough blood to disperse throughout the body to take care of this system. So when we start to link these organs and this kind of comprehensive body mind map back together, the body starts functioning much better. This shifts your nervous system. So these linking patterns when we're doing a session shifts your nervous system out of a sympathetic or a fight-flight response into a parasympathetic or regenerative mode, where your body can go back into the state of homeostasis and heal. So we're just kind of discovering where the communication is interrupted, linking it back together, and then your body starts to remember how it can heal itself. So how can Body Talk support epigenetics? So epigenetics, I'm going to give just a little description, nothing like the brilliant Larissa just gave us. Epigenetics, where lifestyle meets health. Epigenetic means on top of the gene. So we have our genome, And then we have our epigenome. And the epigenome, epigenetic markers are enzymes that turn the genes on and off. So they sit on top of the genes and they turn them on and off. And you know, so certain genes are supposed to be expressed, and maybe they're not expressing themselves because there's a marker that's locking the gene down. Or certain genes are not supposed to express themselves, and the marker is not on there, and so that gene is expressing itself. So what we're doing in Body Talk with epigenetics is we're intuitively going into certain areas where the epigenetic markers are not allowing the gene to express itself properly, or not allowing the gene to stay turned off. So the markers tell the gene whether it should express itself or not. Lifestyle factors talk to your genes and impact your health, creating either vibrant health or chronic disease. So this is a lot of what Larissa talked about too, is like what we eat and how we think, and our exercise, our spiritual practices, meditating, and things that we can do to support our epigenetics. They're all lifestyle factors. So when we're eating foods that are toxic, it's going to affect our epigenetic response to life. Your genes remember. Your genes remember what you've lived through. So we are talking about acquired epigenetic markers that we've acquired in this lifetime. So your genes remember what you've lived through, what and how you eat, your exercise and self-care patterns, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They remember it all. They remember your prenatal experiences and the stressors that your parents lived through. They also remember ancestral experiences of war, poverty, starvation, and trauma. These experiences are all imprinted on the DNA through epigenetic markers. The good news is you can do something about the ways that your genes express. This picture it just made me feel like, oh, that's the kind of epigenetic system I want. This very deep relaxed state of relaxation. Body Talk and energy protocols for epigenetics are a vital mind reset. A lot of people are talking about that now. It's the way that you think really impacts your health. A stress resets. So working with the sympathetic or fight-flight mode to bring in tend and befriend mode, or challenge mode, or rest and restore mode. And right now, with this virus and the stressors that are going on right now, it's really, really important to keep your system in more of a parasympathetic response rather than a sympathetic response, because in sympathetic response, your immune system doesn't work so well. So I've been doing a lot of classes on the immune system and supporting the parasympathetic response. So meditation, qigong, breathing, yoga, and come to my classes. So we work with epigenetic marker updates. Like I was talking about earlier, where we add markers or remove markers for the genes to function in the way that they're supposed to. Energy balancing techniques and exercises like qigong and meditation and yoga. So tend and befriend. Right now it's a little bit hard to do that, especially if you're living by yourselves. This is my family. This was in February when I was in Florida, and right before COVID really set in. So we want to find ways to connect with other people and to support tend to befriend or increase our oxytocin levels and our serotonin levels and our dopamine levels and our natural opioids, so that we can keep the cortisol levels down in our system. Your genes remember. So we're working with acquired markers. Your genes remember what you've lived through. They remember the traumas, the challenges, the stressors, infections, accidents, toxin exposure, drugs, cigarettes. They remember times of overeating, so maybe binge eating, over drinking, alcohol, smoking, things that we've consumed that we've the overconsumption, or lean times, and that could include fasting or dieting or anorexia. So our genes can go into lockdown if we've done too much dieting. Improper dieting. There's certain kinds of healthy dieting that's good, but when I grew up, there were all kinds of weird diets. I never did any of them, but people have epigenetic locks from dieting. So exercise, meditation, spiritual practices can create positive effects on your epigenome. And then the prenatal experiences of mom and dad affect your stressors and your toxins. I think this picture was like really stunning to me with childhood anxiety and how many kids right now are so stressed. And I just wonder what it's doing to their systems. Things that your ancestors whisper to your DNA. Why do our genes need to remember our ancestors' experiences? For most of human existence, this tuning has been the same. So, we just pass things over from one generation to the next. So, for instance, if our ancestors learned how to make fire, they pass it over into our genes, into our genetic expression, because we don't want to have to relearn how to make fire, or we don't want to have to relearn how to make the wheel. It's already something that our ancestors have learned. So this is all passed down into our children. Or, you can think of technology. So our children, when I grew up, there wasn't such a thing as a computer or a cell phone. We had dial phones when I was little. And, but our children, they come in and they are born knowing how to use a computer, or born knowing how to use a cell phone. In fact, they can usually figure it out when they're 2 years old faster than we can. So that to me is like a form of epigenetic expression that's coming in through our ancestors. It allowed our ancestors to pass down information through our DNA so that we continued to evolve through the generations. However, our 21st century lifestyle doesn't match the lives of our ancestors. Our ancestors had different stressors and different epigenetic expressions because of those stressors. The early life stressors of our ancestors, such as traumas, abuse, war, poverty, feast, famine, nutritional insufficiency, toxin exposure, all created epigenetic markers. Now I'm thinking about all this, and I'm thinking, yes, but we have a whole host of people in this world that have these types of traumas. Generally, I don't think anybody in this class has these type of traumas, but this is something that we're recreating in our lifetime. So markers acquired during childhood are passed on through the DNA of future generations. So it is during childhood and not after childbearing years. I think I have this in here. Because when we're passing our information over to our children, it has to be the information that we gathered before we had our children. So if you were you have, let's say, your great-grandmother or your great-great-grandmother had 12 children, and they were all healthy and alive, and you were healthy, and the lifestyle was a good, healthy lifestyle. But when these children were young adults, a war broke out, and 5 of the children went to war, and they all died. Now that mother is grieving; she's got all kinds of stress in her system, but that is not going to be passed down through the lineage because that was after her children were born. Now the children may have their own stressors from everything that happened, but the mother is not going to pass on the information that the epigenetic markers that she has in her system to the children who are already born. So ancestral markers are activated during stressful times and show up as disease, increased and unexplained sympathetic response to life situations. They're connected to oversensitivity, anxiety, amped up stress, response in brain areas, infertility, and obesity. The bottom line is that epigenetic markers that our ancestors acquired before childbearing create imbalances affecting your health and vitality today because your genes are in a state of lockdown. So when your genes are in a state of lockdown, they're not expressing themselves properly, they're going to affect your vitality and your health. So a couple of case studies and a little bit more about ancestral epigenetics is if your grandfather smoked as a child, these are certain lifestyle factors creating epigenetic locks that have been researched. If your grandfather smoked when he was a child, it affects, usually it skips a generation, so it will likely affect his grandchild. And I think that it creates obesity in the grandson. If the grandma smoked or drank while pregnant, there's a higher risk of the grandson being overweight. So bad moms, childhood neglect, trauma, stressed out dads, old dads, sedentary liver. If you're just kind of hanging around drinking a lot and your liver is getting sedentary, toxins are building up, it's going to affect your epigenetic expression. Diet, toxins, famine, drugs. Toxins are ancestors, and toxins of today have an impact on tomorrow's generation. And this is shown across the plant and animal kingdom. So here's another case study. DDT was banned in 1972 after the movie Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. And she also wrote a book, and it showed the environmental impact of widespread DDT spraying. DDT effects on obesity are greater than other toxicants. Epigenetic impact in pregnant rats show that parents who were exposed to DDT had no obesity increase. Kids of the parents who were exposed had no obesity increase, but the grandkids, 50% of them were obese. And this is what, the kids were really in the fog. There were this looks like these kids are spraying the DDT on the field. So they were breathing it, they were living in it. So it really did have a big impact. The detox strategies in Body Talk that we use to clear the liver pathways, the toxin pathways in the liver that Larissa taught us about are, first of all, we will use our neuromuscular feedback system, and we'll determine the toxin burden. This is on a scale of 1 to 10, and the type of toxin buildup, the emotional connection to the toxins. So, so we talked about that earlier, that the emotional connection to whatever's going on physiologically is really impactful. We'll look at which liver detox pathways are blocked, and we'll clear the pathways through Body Talk protocols, through hydration, body chemistry. It could be a Chinese medicine protocol, or some advanced protocols that we have in Body Talk. And then we'll optimize liver detoxification by identifying and clearing markers in the liver hepatocytes. So that's my talk for today. I welcome any questions also. And if you have any questions, please chat in. I'm going to, before we do that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information. I have a couple of classes. We've been doing an immune tune to keep our immune system really healthy so that it can fight off viruses. And we've been doing this Thursday mornings at 11, and I'm going to be doing that through the month of May. You're welcome to join our April class also. And then I'm going to start a class called Living with the Seasons. And this is understanding and practicing the principles of Chinese 5 elements. I don't have the day or times yet, but it's going to start in May. And then I am offering, I have one more free Body Talk group session next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And I also have, I also am offering 50% discounts through May for my private Body Talk sessions, and that is $110. And this is my information. If you'd like my information, my website is www.laurachalfant.com, and my email, laura@laurachalfant.com. Phone number 484-624-1468. Thanks much. And I see that there's some chats coming in. Larissa,
thank you, Laura.
Thanks.
I didn't see any questions. Some questions are answered already that were posted privately, so I answered them. If anybody wants to ask question while live, so you can ask question, just unmute yourself. Also, the information about epigenetic testing, I will send a link if you would be interested to order epigenetic testing. I will send a link along with the recording, and also Laura's information with all her classes that going on. So you will receive recording and the link for those special discounts. Anyone would like to ask questions or comment on anything that you were hearing today? Okay. And as you can see that we work very tightly with Laura, and thank you very much for contributing to my epigenetics. And I'm very biological and physical oriented, and Laura comes to epigenetic from completely different perspective. and we complement each other. So if I cannot do energetic healing from lower standpoint, so I refer my clients to her. So anybody would like to ask question?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks, Laura and Larissa. Laura, could you talk? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you talk more about how you make the emotional connection to the toxins and the nature of that connection emotionally?
Yes. Let's work with acquired epigenetic markers. So let's say that you're 10 years old and your parents are getting divorced, and it's affecting you deeply. You're really upset. You're really angry because your dad is leaving, and you have all these emotions that are in your system, and you deal with this by starting to binge eat. So you're binge eating. You're binge eating, different types of processed foods, but there's one type of food, gummy bears. That you just like eat a lot of gummy bears with red dye in them, and that red dye clogs up your system. So it's a toxin that's clogging up your liver, and then you have this emotional impact that's on top of this toxin. So you don't know what's going on. You're 10 years old, and you're just, you start to have weight issues because you've been binge eating. And maybe even you start, you go into bulimia or something. So it's like it could get really tied up. And then you're older, you're in your 20s, you go through therapy and you do epigenetic testing, and you cleanse your body out and go on, you're eating really healthy, and you do all these things, but you're still having problems. You still have, emotional problems. You still have digestive issue problems, and we can't quite figure out what it is. So we'll go in, and so epigenetically I'll find that, or I'll do a session, I'll find that there's a red dye toxin in one of the liver pathways, and there's an emotion of rage at your father that's still there. And so we find those links, and once we can find and clear those, find the connections, then we clear the epigenetic marker. The impact of that toxin and the link between the emotion and the toxin gets cleared from your system.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Laura, I have a question. I know you work with some cancer patients.
Yeah.
Do you see a pattern how epigenetic markers, only what kind of epigenetic markers play a role in creating a cancer in the body?
Yes, I do. I have a number of clients who have cancer, and it's interesting because most of the time I can't work directly with epigenetics initially, because I have to do a lot of water hydration. I have to do a lot of 5-element work and meridian work to get the energy flowing in the system first. So it's just I have one client that has colon cancer that spread to one of her lymph nodes, and they can't do surgery because of the position of it. And so I tried doing an initial epigenetic unwinding, and it created like too much imbalance in her system. And I think it did help quite a bit. But I decided I needed to slow down. So I slow down, and I go more directly with balancing the body chemistry, clearing, like doing a lot of hydration and clearing toxins from the body first. And then I can get right into the, after I can get a level of toxin release from the body, then I can get into the cancer cells and pull back the epigenetic markers. So cancer is an epigenetic disease. It's created by genes that are mutating because you know, maybe the methylation markers are not on the genes anymore, and so that they're kind of going haywire and they're starting to mutate. So there's a very kind of comprehensive system of how you pull back the cancer by looking into which cancer cells have which like histomarkers or methylation markers, or you know, the type of markers that are on the cancer cells, and pull them, and we can pull them back by removing or adding. You know, we'll either remove activating markers that are allowing the gene to express itself, or we'll add repressing markers to turn the genes off. So it's a very complex, cancer is very complex, but I do find it working. I always work with Western medicine. I never would offer anybody a treatment if they're not, I mean, I would offer a treatment for sure, but I think it works best integratively, you know, with immune therapy. Any other questions? Do you have any other questions about that, the question, Larissa?
No, you explain it so beautifully. I would never be able to explain except scientific way of creation of cancer. So you explain it in energetic level and different kind of wording that you use. So it's amazing, and that's why I like to work with you. So you bring other approach to any diseases. And thank you for your contribution today to my talk. And next week, Laura is actually hosting a session for us. So we bring Laura back next week, and she can have a group session on epigenetics. So you're all welcome to come, and I'll send everybody invitation for our next week topic. So you will experience body talk and how the body talk session works. Right, Laura?
Yes, and I'd like to say something about that. It would be a good idea, if you're going to join us, is to think about what maybe one issue that you want to deal with. So now that you understand epigenetics and how we work with epigenetics and body talk, get a sense of like what it is that you think your system needs. And if you can email that to me before next week, that would be really helpful, because I'll get a read on the whole group that we're working with, and just, you know, just address more specific issues that way. Although I can do that intuitively without your response also. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I love Larissa. I think she's really brilliant, and I think we're a good team together. And I'm so grateful that she can explain the science in the way that she does, because I don't have that background.
It's a good combination. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and wait for the email. It will come from Eventbrite with recording and all our updates and all links. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.